everybody. We welcome you to the December meeting of the Computer Club. We got a little low today. First time. Everybody must be busy. So, we got the normal slides here. We'll tell you what we're doing. There's our money. Down a little bit, not much. Put out a little bit more, and then it'll start building. We're up to 1625 on membership though. So, go tell your friends. We're still having problems with Windows 10. People are putting it on and it's causing some cases, some problems that they're not expecting. It's usually a driver problem on your computer that causes the problem. So let's, if you can wait a while yet until Microsoft figures out what are all the bad drivers so they can check for them when they install it on your computer. There is, anybody else have a problem with Windows 10 on a reinstall recently? Did they put it on and it crashed or didn't work? Any hands? Yeah, one. Okay, it's still out. They're still out there. We got one new one. The characters are starting to write backwards. You type backwards, it looks like it's the Arabian Lights going in that direction. Heard that story and seen it. So we don't really know. The best thing you can do is wait a little longer, and they'll get their install program to look on your computer for these known files that once they figure out what file is causing the problem, they'll be able to remove it and make it run right. So with that, how many got the newsletter this month? Okay. How many didn't get it? Raise your hand. Okay, those people, it's a little less. You didn't get it. We'll have a list up here. Is Mr. Ruby here today? Yeah, the list for up here when you get a chance. Piece of paper for that. Another list. We'll take your name and your email address and see if we can figure out why that's happening. It shouldn't be, but it is. We asked for some volunteers. We're always looking for volunteers. We need more monitors in the club right now, and it would help if anything you can do as a volunteer would be helpful. Yesterday in the club it was pretty thin help, so we'd like to get a few more people, even if you don't know much about it, but you have some basic computer skills. If you never fixed the computer or you don't know what to do, we can show you a lot. A lot of it is simple. Plug them in. Yeah, that takes time though, So, and then you can help that. We can learn how to run antivirus on them and talk to the people. That's takes another hour and a half or hour and doesn't require any ability other than to sit there and talk to the person. So that we can use. Anybody who has just a little abilities, we could use your help because it makes the club a lot better if people coming in don't have to wait for me to bop around between 4 or 5 people and then forget what you're doing. Or forget one of them. Okay, we got this month we had as far as the computer club. What we're gonna do? Oh, okay. We got. I'll just set that thing down.
That was Windows 10.
Yeah. We have a new device. We're going to have a telephone attendant on a line over there that will answer our phone and give a spiel on a few things on the computer club, and it will allow you to leave a message and we'll get back to you. So it's more for the people, new people that are moving in and people that don't know nothing and that haven't been to a meeting here, to get some information about the club. And it'll also cut down the calls I get at home by a lot. I hope we get them from 7:30 to 9:30. So the attendant will answer just during the normal period when the club is open. You'll get a live person. Somebody will pick up the phone if you let it ring long enough. But during the rest of the hours, it could be used for anything. So I just play a little bit of. This is what you'll hear when you dial in. John will magically make it work.
Thanks for calling the Sun City Computer Club. As a member, you have a wide range of classes, lectures, and one-on-one help, all designed to help you better understand and take advantage of your computer, tablet, or smartphone. Our up-to-date computer lab is a place where you can use our specialized pieces equipment to convert VHS tapes, photos, and record to DVDs. In addition, we can help you with software and hardware problem. You can join at the lab anytime the lab is open. Membership is $25.
Then it'll go on to say, press 1 for +2, +3, just like any other attendant will do. And you get a chance, you can check it out.
Yeah.
So if anybody asks you about the computer club, say just call it that number up there. It's a direct line to the computer room. So that will be working, I think, by Monday. It might not be working today yet. It's on a test phone. So I think we'll have Ralph come up and tell us about what we're going to do for training for this next semester, which is the winter classes.
Well, I'm living proof you don't have to know very much to help in the computer lab. No doubt about that. Just want to let you know we had almost 300 people that attended classes in the this last quarter, which was pretty darn good. And next January, next month anyway, Will Gertig is going to be here on Saturday morning and talk about backing up your files on the computer. I'm sure that's going to be a very interesting program. Hope everybody can make it. We've got our class schedule completed for the first quarter of 2016. We're going to have 18 classes in the 3 months. January there'll be 5 classes, and happily I can tell you we're going to have 2 on Windows 10. Using Windows 10 will be January the 5th, and Frank will be doing that, and then he's going to be doing Picasa, his all-time favorite. And there's 3 classes on that, the 12th, 19th, and 26th, and then on the 27th, there'll be another Windows 10 class by Will Gertig. So January with 5 classes, I'm sure that be something that you could be interested in. And I'm not going to go over the February classes, we'll do that next month, but there's 9 classes in February. So hopefully you'll look at attending one of the classes, or even consider helping one of the instructors, or possibly instructing yourself. But these will be listed in the computer lab. There's a sheet on the bulletin board. It's also on our website, and the day of the class is out here on the monitor. So look at the classes, and hopefully that's something that you're interested in. If we don't have a class listed that you'd like to see, let me know, and we'll see if we have it listed on. We got about 54 classes we can teach. If it's not on there, we'll maybe look at adding a new one, but we do have to find an instructor. That's the important thing. So keep it in mind, and if you want to help, we're looking for help. And the pay is really good.
Okay, we don't have much on the community matters this month, except for the Prairie Singers are having their concert tomorrow at the high school, and Gene Rose is going to have, he has tickets. Gene, stand up really, put those tickets up there. He'll have tickets if you didn't get them and you want to go tomorrow. It's at the high school at 3 o'clock. And they can use all the support you can give. And with that, I'll bring up Joe to introduce our speaker.
Before I do that, I just want to mention one thing. Frank talked about upgrading to Windows 10. That does not necessarily apply to buying a new computer. He's talking about when you upgrade from 7 or 8 to 10. Buying a new 10 computer is the future, so don't go buy a 7 and have to upgrade later. Just wanted to say that. Having said that, I want to introduce Dave Siegel from CameraCraft. He's been here before. He has some unique product to talk about, and I know Joe McCutcheon will be celebrating that. And if you're interested in camera, Dave. By the way, Dave liked our new lamp.
Yep. I think I'm gonna lose my mic. Yeah, that new computer lab is really impressive. Those people who are having any sort of difficulty of a technical nature, like can't get your microphone to work, I would encourage you to visit that lab. They can repair computers. They can troubleshoot. They can transfer analog images and data to digital, which is a wonderful thing. And they do it in a very deluxe environment. So just going there and having a nice, well-lit, easy to view, clean place to get all of your computer needs addressed is fantastic. I wish we had this in Rockford. I feel like a kindergartner, like just got dressed. As Joe said, my name is David Siegel, and this is working? Yeah, this works great. And I work at CameraCraft in Rockford, Illinois. We're one of those things that you may recall, it's called a camera store. Not many of us left. Some days it feels like I'm becoming a VCR salesman. Thank you. But it can be a little bit discouraging. But it's also one of those industries that's very hobby-oriented, and as such, like any hobby, there's always a conversation to be had. People like to share their memories, they like to store their memories, but they also like to talk about them. And we are an environment where that can happen. Joe McCutcheon's been really very, very cool about coming to the store and showing me pictures that he likes. Not just the ones that, well, my camera did this, can you fix this? You know, he brings me his vacation pictures. And I love that. I love the fact that people are so excited about their pictures, they'll bring them in and they'll talk about them enthusiastically. I can't survive being paid with charm, but it adds an awful lot to the day of anybody who really loves images, to see somebody proudly show his photos. I would love to tell you that I'm going to talk about storing your photos, making memories, etc., but I'm actually going to talk about stuff I want you to buy. And we're going to start in this very easy. We're going to start with things that you might want to give as gifts, you might want to get as gifts, and we'll start with the very reasonable and the very practical. And now I'm wishing I had done this with a little different background. Okay. This thing that's up in the corner may not seem like a big deal. It's a camera strap. Not a big deal. But carrying a camera is something that a lot of people are just not willing to do because it's kind of an inconvenience. It's a hassle. Being able to carry a camera, have it be out of the way, because this is made for a Lilliputian, it's going to sling across your body. There's a picture in the next slide. Allows the camera to sit out of the way, and when you want to use it, you just simply lift the camera up to your face or out in front of you, and you take your picture. Just anyone who uses a camera, a strap like this is going to be a real blessing to have. In the world of $10 and under gifts, things to store your memory cards. People are using memory cards as their long-term storage now, not just as the thing that's in the camera until they can get the pictures loaded onto a computer or onto an external drive. They're actually storing them on the memory cards. This is a really compact, portable way to have those images stored safely, labeled so you can identify the images. It's about $8, and I think would be a welcome gift to anybody who is into photography. Now I know you're probably all adventurous people, so you'll go out in the rain and into the desert and fight the dust, or maybe not. But having a way to keep your camera gear protected in those environments is a great thing to have. About $7, and you get a couple of these raincoats for your camera. This is something that people are buying already for themselves regularly. It's one of the biggest consumables that I sell. So it's something that I know that if you have a gift recipient who likes cameras, this would be a great thing to have. Keeping your camera clean obviously will help you get better photos, especially if it's the lens you're keeping clean. But just keeping the camera clean is a very smart thing to do. And we do have some really fun little accessories like lens pens and lens cloths that come in a little container that look like a lens and has little carabiners and keep it with you all the time. It's pretty cool. This is something specifically for your camera club, which I understand is newly formed. I was asked, do we clean camera sensors? The little imaging device that records the image, and we do. We charge $65 for a sensor cleaning, and people come to us frequently to have that done because they are concerned that if they do it themselves, they're going to damage their camera. But it is a really very safe thing to do, and I would suggest that the camera club pick one up, because for about half the price of one sensor cleaning, you can get a kit that will allow you to safely and easily clean a sensor many, many, many times.
What's it do, right?
Story of my life, I went too far. Who has images on a phone that they're struggling to get somewhere else? Excellent. We sell little flash drives that will plug into the data port of your Android device. Sorry, Apple people, they don't have one of these yet. But these are available in capacities up to 128 gigabytes, so a lot of storage. And you can just plug this into the phone and copy the pictures over to what becomes the removable drive. And then you remove this from your device, and you can plug it into the USB port of your local kiosk where you're going to have your pictures printed. Plug it into the USB port of your computer so you can see the pictures on your computer. It's a way that you might make data very portable without having to fight to connect via Wi-Fi. You don't have to input all of these passwords and whatnot. Just a very fast, convenient way to move data. And depending on the capacity of the drive, they'll range from $30 to $50. I wasn't going to mention this thing on the bottom called a slide viewer. I'm sure everybody has seen them because the computer lab has a passel of them. But the only thing that's really kind of cool and unusual about this is that its light source is LED and the magnification is huge. So it's a very comfortable view, and the bulb is going to last forever. And it lasts a very, very long time. I'm sure everybody's probably had or used or at least remembers Polaroid. It's a name that still kind of exists, but it's just a license name. It's owned by a company called the Impossible Project. And they call it that because it's impossible to make a profit selling a product that generates an inferior image and costs way more than any other image you would get. However, the popularity somehow seems to persist. Fuji has a little different approach to it. For one thing, the product is a lot less expensive, about a quarter of the cost of a Polaroid. The cameras are going to be less expensive. They're very cool in their design. Come in these very fun colors. They come in different sizes. But you can get different size pictures. Ones that are the size of a wallet image, or the size of like the old Polaroid 600 or SX70s. And instead of paying $3 a picture, you'll spend more in the neighborhood of 70 cents to $1. So it's a lot more economical to use. But if you don't want to buy an instant camera because you don't think you'll use it all that much, you can buy a little portable battery-operated printer that will print in images instantly on Polaroid type film and paper. And this system is called the Fuji Instax. Now, when I created this slideshow, it had a white background. You know?
Oh, we did. Maybe I didn't look.
And then I used dark text to stand out. Flip the background, but not the text. Okay, no biggie. So down in this lower corner, I show a memory card, and you're like, so what? It's a memory card. What's unusual about this is it's something called Cinema Ready. And that speaks to its ability to accept and unload data very, very quickly. So if you are taking pictures and your camera suddenly says it's busy while it's writing information to the memory card, it won't happen with this card because it accepts data so fast. There aren't cameras yet who will slow down because the buffer filled up, because that card will accept the data so fast. Plus it downloads very, very fast. And in the Windows 10 environment, nearly every computer is going to have a USB port on it or a card reader that will accept the data as fast as that can give it. So it simply means that your downloads, if you have say a 64 gigabyte card, instead of it taking 10 minutes, it's going to take 40 seconds to download. And that little extra time could be kind of nice to spend maybe editing. If you have people who you're planning to give a gift to that are into video, this thing that I'm wearing now that they were kind enough to fit to me is a lavalier microphone. And instead of having to have this fancy thing that this plugged into, you can put this into your phone. And it's not going to project like this unless your phone has great speakers. But what it will do is record audio brilliantly. And anybody who does do video is going to know that half the battle is getting the image, the other half the battle is getting great sound. And having a microphone that's always going to be localized to the source of the audio is great. It's not going to matter if I turn and I'm faced away from you. If you had a microphone, you wouldn't hear a thing I'm saying now. But because the microphone flips on, which always stays right here, the audio is always good, no matter what position. There's the picture of that strap that I was talking about. Camera just sits at your hip, comes up and gets in front of your face so you can take photos. The reason I had this slide on a different, or I had this on two different slides, is one of them is a Black Rapid strap. They're the originator of this sling style, and certainly the most common one. And anybody who is a camera buff that you're thinking of giving a gift to will immediately recognize the Black Rapid name, and it's really that pervasive. It's just a bit more expensive, and there are lots of options, come in great colors. So if you want to match it up to your best recipient's favorite sports team or whatever, you can certainly do it. And of course, anyone who is into photography knows that photography is writing with light. And it's not always possible to take great light with you. As driving up here today, I heard a phrase I'd never heard before called frozen fog. understand lots of people are familiar with it, but I'm not. I never heard of such a thing. But I recognized that driving up here that there was not a great quality of light, nor a great volume of light. So being able to have something that's small and portable, that with a good battery would give a tremendous volume of light, or just a little bit of light if you only need a little bit more. It's adjustable. This would be a great thing for any photographer. This can mount to the top of a camera very easily and will create a light that would be equal to maybe the lights you remember using with the old movie cameras that took 8mm or 16mm film. Sylvania made a product called a Sun Gun, and it created a great amount of light and a tan to everybody in the room. You could use it to cook your dinner quickly. Instead of shoveling, you could melt the snow on your sidewalk. They were great. This is LED and doesn't create any real heat. You can leave it on until the battery dies or until you lose the power in your home, and you can still walk up to it and put your hand right on the bulb and realize that there's very little heat being generated. So that's kind of a cool item to have. For the adventurous photographer, these colorful cameras up here, they are waterproof, nearly bomb-proof. Video cameras, still cameras, have great image stabilizers in them. They're very tough. I don't own this, so I'm not going to throw it at anybody. But I would be confident that if I threw this and everybody ducked and it hits a table, a chair, the floor, I can go pick it up and do it again and again and again, and it's going to continue to work. So even if you have a gift recipient who is just really hard on things and likes to take pictures, this would be a great thing to have. Tripods, great to have, great to use, except they're so inconvenient, nobody likes to take them, so they don't get used. This is something I brought a couple of years ago, and they were getting to be somewhat popular. They are now getting to be a ubiquitous item. Because they can fold up so small, they can nearly go into a pocket, yet can extend high enough that even a fairly tall person can walk right up to his camera and take a picture without having to scrunch down. It's a great thing to have. These will come in, again, many colors, many different sizes, price range $150 to $250. Unless your tastes are into carbon fiber, then you pretty much double those prices. One of the things that makes carrying a tripod a lot more practical is just having a bag that will carry it, and all your camera gear, and your lunch, a jacket, a pair of shoes, your computer, or tablet, small child. I wasn't really thinking of camera bags as a real hot gift item, but this is the first bag I've carried where people have been walking into the store asking for it by name. It's called the Thule Perspective Backpack. And Thule doesn't know how to spell. They're from, I don't know, it's a Swedish company, but they spell perspective Perspiktev. Or maybe they're just trying to be cool, not sure. But tremendous camera bags, and I bring it just simply because it is one of 6 things that I have in the store that, these were the only 6 things that I sold, we would have a tremendously successful holiday season. I'm going to talk to you about that little printer. It is, by the way, about $180, and will come with some media to print on. Flashlight, big deal, right? I'll agree. Flashlight's not a big deal. What is great about it is This will create a tremendous volume of light, kind of like that little square thing that I had if you put onto a camera. But what photographers really like about this is something that can go to a studio and replace a big softbox or an umbrella. Because the light is curved the way it is, it allows shadows to become very soft and indistinct when using artificial lighting. And by artificial, I mean something that's not the sun. And if this is going to just simply be added to a room that already has light, but maybe it's tungsten light, or it's a yellow compact fluorescent or LED, you can filter it so it matches the light in your house. Now you just added a greater volume of light, softened the shadows. For photographers, this has been something of a holy grail device because it is a small, portable, low heat, low wattage, but very bright, useful light that can go into a studio, go into a home, it can go outside. Battery operated. And these are about $300. This picture down here in the middle and the bottom is a real quirky one. It's one of the most popular cameras already. It's called the Nikon D3300. You can buy it in a little 2-lens package that, until the beginning of November, would have cost you around $650. They'll now sell it to you for $499. They'll throw in a bag. They'll throw in a little Wi-Fi adapter so you can connect to your phone or a tablet and use it as a shutter button. Use it as your viewfinder. It's been a pretty impressive little camera. And at $500, it's, for people who are asking for an interchangeable lens camera, it's become something of a no-brainer. Yeah, John?
David, you might want to turn the light down so that you can see the pictures.
Oh, this is the only light I can turn down, unfortunately.
Rock, that's what I meant.
Okay. Yay. The camera in the upper, my right hand corner, is a little Sony camera, pocket camera. And generally when people look at this initially, it inspires them to say, so what? Another pocket camera? You'd be kidding me, this is not 2002. But in 2002, they didn't have cameras with a 30 times optical zoom. And certainly if there were such a camera, it didn't have a viewfinder unless it was a giant camera like this. But they have packed into a shirt pocket camera a little viewfinder, a little pop-up flash. Now it looks a little bit like a transformer, but it really is a very powerful compact camera that also has all the benefits of a much bigger camera with a long zoom and a viewfinder. This is something that any photographer, from beginner to really advanced, can add to his assortment of products and be happy to have it because it is a convenient way to have a tremendous amount of quality, power, and convenience and ease of use. I gotta figure out what I do with my come up. All right, this picture down here in the corner. Ah, got it. I went. And speaking of tremendous zoom, down here in the corner is a lens from Tamron for people who have interchangeable lenses, and it really doesn't matter what brand of camera they have. Tamron makes a lens that has this tremendous zoom range to it. That right now is about $400, but it goes from a very wide angle to a long telephoto. Pretty sharp lens, not going to be as sharp as a dedicated prime lens or a great quality short zoom lens, but it offers a tremendous amount of flexibility also in a very small package. So something that could add to the convenience and enjoyment and practicality of any photographer's shooting experience. I didn't bring this light that's in the top of the slide because it looks like a gigantic studio light, which is what it is. But it's still worth mentioning to, if you're thinking of giving light to a photographer, because this is something that's going to create the greatest volume of light available in any constant light source. Once upon a time, we sold many halogen lamps, or light fixtures that took 1,000-watt light. Much more uncomfortable than that Sylvania sun gun, because it created a tremendous amount of heat. The bulbs didn't last that long, figure 40 or 50 hours. And it was expensive to run. You had a huge draw on your electric supply. This is something that's going to have the light output of a 1,000-watt lamp, but it's going to have the draw of about a 100-watt lamp. And because it's fan cooled, you can leave this thing on all week and turn it off by going and unscrewing the bulb. And you don't worry about burning your fingers. It just doesn't get that hot. Might be a cool, really super deluxe gift of light to your favorite photographer. Here we're going to have a few of those 6 things that I could make a living selling, just those things this holiday season. This top in the middle is called an Osmo, and it's from the same company who brings us drones, DJI. And you've all heard of GoPro? This is essentially a GoPro that's much more on the go. And it's also much higher quality. It has something called a gimbal that will balance and stabilize the image so well that you could simply get in your car or just go jogging down the street, swinging this camera that's about this big, pretty small, and it will look like it was a great movie production because it'll be smooth, even, as if the camera were sitting on a tripod in a dolly and just sliding down a track. The reason I didn't bring one is I can't get enough of them fast enough that I could even bring just one and not risk losing a sale at the store. It's pretty crazy. As big as GoPro has been, the Osmo is going to be equally big, and it comes in 3 flavors. This is called an X3. They have an X5 and an X5 Plus. And the differences are just that this one is like a GoPro camera, but the X5s will take interchangeable lenses and has a much larger sensor and a lot more expensive. But the excellent, extraordinary video quality these things will produce very easily is a huge, huge draw. The Sony A7 that I have up here, it's a big camera in my upper left, is a camera whose imaging sensor is the size of a 35mm frame of film, yet the camera body will fit into a pocket. And regardless of what lens you may or your gift recipient already has, that camera will take it. And it doesn't matter. Here's this wonderful old gigantic super telephoto lens from 1974, little Pentax lens. I could take that A7, which this is not, and mount it to the camera and take extraordinary photos. I could take this Tamron lens, which looks like that Sigma one there, and mount it to that camera. It'll take any lens and give professional quality photos, like real professional quality photos, in a camera that will easily slide into a pocket. So it can always be with you. I think that's a tremendous asset to any photographer. And of course, the giant item in consumer electronics this holiday season is the drone. This is called a Standard 3, a Phantom 3 Standard. And this is going to give you a flying camera. And they're about $600 to $700 depending on what week you buy it. And this is going to give anybody a really unusual perspective on the things they really want to photograph. Like, maybe they would like to get a picture of something out on a bridge, but it's not practical to get the angle they want because it would involve being out in the middle of the water. This is something that'll let you fly as much as 1.25 miles out. Get the video or pictures that you want and bring it back. Or if you don't want to worry about bringing it back, just set the controller down, looks like this, and it will just come back to you and land. Yeah, they're pretty fun, and they're pretty impressive. And there's going to be a wide range of prices on these. You'll find these drones from as little as $100 that aren't going to be quite as easy to fly. The cameras aren't going to be quite as good. They're going to break a lot more easily. But there are drones out there for as little as $100 and as much as $30,000. And this lens that I'm showing, I have somewhat misnamed. This is a Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter lens, but I have it labeled as a Tamron, and that's actually what I bought. This is a lens that's going to allow more telephoto than this lens does at about 1/8 of the weight. A great thing. And also a much lower price. To get all of this zoom packed into one lens, depending on, again, what week you buy it, it's going to be from $950 to $1,070. And by the way, yes, I do want one if you're thinking, I'd like to get that speaker a nice gift. I'm going to go back. Also, if you're thinking, you know, I was told that I should get somebody a camera with interchangeable lenses, an SLR. There are so many amazing ones out there, and with prices like that Nikon starting at around $400 or $500 and going to the sky's the limit. But in the $500 to $1,000 range, you can get the bulk of the cameras supplied to you, and they're all extraordinary. But lots of great options there. If your recipient has a little better taste and you're thinking, I'm going to have to step up to really get them something great, you can get into cameras that have what's called a full frame, kind of like that Sony A7 I talked about a moment ago. But maybe they don't want to have to adapt a lens because that does kind of diminish the appeal of the small camera. But now the two biggest names, Nikon and Canon, will offer you for around $1,500, maybe a little less, really great camera options that will give them the greatest convenience, speed, image quality, and by convenience I mean you don't have to do anything funny to make a lens fit on there. Look at that, another drone. And it's exactly like the drone that I brought today, which is called the Phantom 3 Professional. And again, depending on the week you buy it, they will range anywhere from $999 to $1,260. This particular week it's $1,260, but they'll give you a $150 battery at no charge. This will do some fairly extraordinary things that other Phantom wouldn't. The video quality is going to be much greater, but it also has a much easier takeoff and land system. On your controller, you will attach your phone or a tablet, and to make it take off, instead of doing anything with the joysticks, you just simply swipe on the phone or the tablet until it's take off. It'll come up, it'll hover at about 3 feet, and it'll confirm to you that it has communication with GPS, that its compass is working, And then you can tell it to go wherever. And it'll go, and when the batteries start to wear down to about 30%, it just comes back to you. And you can manually move the controllers all you want, and it won't care. It's coming back to you. And if it doesn't like where it took off from, it'll come back and look at that spot and say, no good. And it'll move over and look at the next spot and say, yeah, this is much better, and land. Or it'll say, this is still terrible. Go to the next spot, look at it, and decide to land there. Really a very, very smart drone that is super difficult to crash. And that's maybe the biggest thing with these, is people have been fearful that something's going to happen, and getting it to land safely is going to be a problem. Much harder to make anything adverse happen with this particular drone. And that's where that extra $500-600 is going, is in the safety and the ease of flying. These do also have an interesting technology in them that prevents them from flying in places where they're regulated that they cannot fly. So let's say you live near O'Hare Airport, you're about 3 miles away. This will let you fly up to about 100 feet, but it won't let you go any higher than that for fear that this could interfere with the flight path of a craft. And it won't let you get any closer to the airport. Also, if you're in a national park and you try to make this thing take off, won't do it. Now, if you take it out of the country, you can disable that, so you can fly it wherever, because most countries don't have the same regulations the United States has. But it's a product that has a great deal of security, and as more and more places create a no-fly zone for drones, it will automatically update, much as some GPSs will do, and you'll no longer be able to fly it over, your favorite Big Ten sporting event, or in a church, or in a school. So fairly cool device. Just out of curiosity, who has looked at the drones and thought, wow, these are pretty cool?
I got one.
Yeah, this has definitely been a much hotter item than the reaction we got here. So I have the sense that maybe there's some folks in here who don't want to offend a significant other. I could be wrong. And then for the most discerning photographer, gift recipients, there's some really extraordinary stuff. We talked about that A7 that was super small, but a professional image, full frame, etc. This is a different version of it. It's a 42 megapixel camera. So when you do go to buy this, make sure that whoever you're giving it to, especially if it's yourself, a really amazing computer with tons of speed, because each picture is going to be so big that if you don't have a great computer, your computer will put a hit out on you. The files are just massive. But Sony's not alone. Nikon and Canon have cameras that will create these gigantic files as well and make your computer just as angry. And they're going to be in that same sort of price stratus. And for the photographer who has everything, has done everything, and you really want to get them into something else and money is just zero object, this has actually been a surprising product to me. When I got into selling cameras, I never imagined that, you probably can't see this, but the price tag on it is 10 grand with a lens. That people would buy something like that just to use, Not because they're a professional photographer, not because it was a commercial tool to use, which is what they intended, but they would buy it because it takes really awesome photos. Lots of cameras take really awesome photos, but this does create a very different look to a photo, but it is also $10,000. I don't have enough for everybody here, but my talk is about great gift ideas in the photographic world. Talked about nearly all of them. There is one that is the absolute biggest, insane thing, highest demand thing in cameras this year. And it's a product from Nikon. It's called a P900. And it's really a telescope with a compact camera attached to it. That doesn't happen to be nearly as big as a telescope, but will magnify like one. It will magnify what we see with our eyes about 40 times. So it's a 2,000 millimeter lens. If it were a telescope, it would be 4 times longer than this ginormo lens. And this would also effectively be brighter than that. If you look online for videos from a Nikon P900, you'll find no shortage of people shooting video of the moon. There's a great one of the lunar eclipse we had not long back, where the camera is on a motorized mount so that it can track the moon. For if it were not, the moon would be this blurry object going through the scene. There's so much magnification that the moon would only be in the view for a couple of seconds, and nothing would be sharp because it would look like it's moving, which it is. But even if just your interest is wildlife or anything that's out in the distance, a very distant landscape, there is nothing that can magnify like this, and has truly been the hardest to get camera product this year. At $599, it's pretty reasonable for the uniqueness that it has and it offers. I ordered this one in my hand in March, and I got this the Monday following Black Friday. That's how hard they've been to get. I have a friend who has a camera store out in Denver, Colorado, who somehow managed to get 4 of them in one day this summer. And a cousin of mine happened to go into the store asking for the camera and was told no, they don't have, they have no idea when they're going to get them. And another employee walked out of the back with 4 of them in his arms. And he bought them all. He put 2 of them up on Amazon, gave one to his mom, which I thought was really nice, and sold them both for almost $1,000. It's essentially a used camera once he's purchased it, that he sold for almost twice what they go for new. That's how big of a demand there has been on this camera. And this demand would not have persisted if it were not a camera that performed as the manufacturer said it was going to perform. And it really does. So if you're looking for you want to be a gift-giving hero to a photographer, that would be the item to give. And that takes me to the end. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Whether it's about this stuff or just about your cameras or photos in general. Yeah?
I have a 35 millimeter Nikon that, I'm sorry.
I have a 35 millimeter Nikon film camera.
Okay.
I haven't used it. I've been using my little digital for
Sure.
years now. But I have a zoom lens and I have a wide angle lens.
Right.
Will those lenses fit on the new Nikon?
Yes. They will fit on any of the Nikon cameras. That first one that I showed was a D3300, about $500. You won't have autofocus, but you would have auto exposure and a focus confirmation. So as you're manually focusing, it'll tell you, oh, stop, you're in focus. But on the other Nikon bodies, the D7200, D750, sure, they'll work great.
So the camera I wouldn't be able to sell, I'd have to pay somebody to come and get it.
Probably.
But actually keep the lenses.
Yes, highly recommended. They can also work on the Sony cameras or any of the mirrorless cameras.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
I've got one.
Hi.
Obviously, most of us have defaulted to using our phones as cameras.
Correct.
And could you briefly comment on the difference in a picture from a phone versus the equipment that you've shown, some of the less expensive stuff?
Certainly. This little adventure camera, it's about $200, is going to have a sensor that's about 3 times the size of the sensor in the very best phones, unless you have that Panasonic with what's called a 1-inch sensor like this Canon camera. So this is going to give you more light. The flash, it has a flash, it has a zoom lens. The flash won't have to work nearly as hard, so your shadows are going to be softer. Now, the screen to look at it is going to be much smaller, and it'll be next to impossible to see the improvement in the photo just looking at the screens. You look at your phone, and many of these things are just ginormous, and you go, wow, that's a great image. Then you start expanding the picture, and the quality isn't that great. Maybe you blame it on the screen, that the resolution didn't hold, but it gets much worse when you put that picture on paper or put it on a computer. They just don't expand all that well. And then you can get little cameras that have even much bigger sensors in them that gather a ton more light, have much sharper lenses, maybe still this small but have interchangeable lenses. So you can just get a lot more flexibility out of a camera than you can out of a phone. I recognize that phones are almost always with you. So the convenience, the practicality, and maybe you always only view it on the screen of your phone. And so the picture quality is very good. So it may be tough to see what the point is of these things until you can actually compare the pictures. So that might be the big difference. Yes?
Dave, you had several pieces of equipment there for lighting, artificial lighting.
Yes.
And you mentioned they were LEDs.
Yes.
What is the color temperature on LEDs versus tungsten or versus daylight?
These particular LED lights are daylight balanced, so they would have the same color temperature as a flash or shooting outdoors. And LED lights will almost always come with a series of filters, kind of like that yellow or that amber that I put in front of this LED, that will let you balance it to fluorescent or tungsten or something even hotter than that.
Dave, why don't you just, we are not supposed to promote businesses and all that stuff,
Sure.
but just tell them where you're at. Where are you at if they're interested?
Sure.
Okay. 39, how do you get off there?
From 39, you'll take 90 going north, and you can get off at the Riverside exit, turn left on Riverside, turn left on McFarland, go past the McDonald's, and you're in our parking lot. Pretty easy to get to. Now, if you want to come out 20, just get on State Street and just keep going until you hit Perryville, take a right, and then drop into our parking lot from Perryville Road. Hit us from both sides. We love that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
We want the audience to take a look at any of these cameras, come up and take a look at them and see what you could possibly think of. And we'll see you all next month, I should say. Happy Christmas, New Year's, and everything else. Anybody who has not got the newsletter, come on up and put your name on that list.